Welcome back to the Schmozone podcast. This is episode 110. I'm Dave Schmolson, a.k.a. the Schmo. My co-host is
Helen with Helen Sports.
And I'm stoked for today's guest. He's a two-time collegiate national champion, two-time Hodge Award winner. He's an Olympian. He's also a welterweight champion in 2 divisions in mixed martial arts. He's Funky Ben Askren.
What's up, guys? This looks tremendous here. So I've been here before, but it was not nearly this nice. It was just kind of in the making at the time.
Do you remember when you were here?
No, I was trying to remember. I don't.
It was the day before Helen got her most viral YouTube video. And thanks to you, you were in town promoting your big boxing match with the one and only Jake Paul.
Oh, Jesus. All right. I didn't remember that was when.
It got me 1 million plus views.
What'd you do?
I was trying to...
It was me and you?
What I did was interview you right after you shoved Jake Paul.
The reaction.
But the interview we did before was next door in that room.
Right,
and you were... doing a hard workout on the ski machine.
Ski machine. Still got it in there. I saw that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, hey, you're an author, too. I might as well throw that in.
Absolutely.
I just read your book, Funky, on the airplane. October 25th. That's the official release?
Next week. Yeah. It was actually supposed to be this week, and then things got pushed back 1 week. So October 25. I'm excited. I actually started working on it during Corona. It was a project to just pass the time because you guys know it sucked. You know, my academies got shut down, and there was nothing to do, and it was like, okay, maybe I'll write a book. And so I actually contacted a friend I like that's a really good author, and there we went away.
And this was a great book because I read the book the entire time just picturing like we were having a conversation, like you were talking to me.
Yes.
So I could definitely hear this in your voice. And also just so many fascinating aspects about it. When you get into sports psychology, I think that was huge. I think anyone who's an athlete at whatever age level, they can get a lot out of that. Helen, who's training for the Olympic trials in swimming right now, she could take a huge chunk out of that. And then just hearing your story about just your journey in mixed martial arts after wrestling, finally getting into the UFC, thinking that you would get that opportunity in 2013, that not coming till later, and then just all the trials and tribulations you had as a wrestler and also losing 30 pounds as a child.
You're the first one that's brought that up. I think it's an interesting point because when in the moment when I was at that age, I didn't think much of it. It was just like, hey, this is what I'm going to do, And now at 38 years old, I should probably explain to people what happened, and then I'll talk about it. So I was a fat kid because I like to eat too much. I think I still like to eat too much, but I try to eat healthy food and work out a lot now also. I was like 130 pounds, and I can't remember if it was 5th or 6th grade. I think it was like going into 6th grade. And, part of it was wrestling-wise. Obviously, especially that middle school age, sometimes dudes hit puberty and they're like 130 pounds and they're jacked, and then I was like a little fat 130-pound kid. And so I wasn't having a lot of success because of that. And then obviously I picked on a little bit at school, and it was just like, hey, like I don't want to be fat anymore. And so I researched and I told my parents like what foods to buy, and I lost 30 pounds, right? And so it's like, that's somewhere around 25% of my body weight at that point in time. And so now, looking back at it as a 38-year-old, it's like, holy crap, for like a 5th or 6th grader to make a decision like that. And not only make the decision and say, I'm going to do this, but then follow through with it fully, And I didn't get back to 130 pounds till my 10th grade year, so it's like 4 years later I got back to that same weight. But yeah, I think that just like kind of speaks to my ability to make a decision early and then stick with the decision that I made.
It seems like that was the turning point for just your entire athletic endeavors, too, to have that wherewithal at such a young age, to be dedicated to sport and dedicated to your body. How many kids that age could say they would do that now in this TikTok era, this social media era?
Yeah.
Do you think some of your wrestling students have it within them to do the same thing now?
Yeah. So I actually say, like, a lot of people talk about teenagers and it make negative connotations. And my experience with teenagers is almost all positive. All the kids I have in my academy, I really enjoy them all. The high majority of them are really hardworking. They're really focused. They're really dedicated to what they're doing. And it's like funny, like I don't ever even see them on their phones. They come into practice, they leave their phones in the other room, a lot of them hang out after practice. They work hard. Like, I just don't, you know what I'm saying? So I don't see that, like, and who knows? I don't know what they're like outside of the wrestling academy, but I'm sure they're probably a little bit addicted to their phones. But yeah, I think there's definitely some of them that have that type of discipline to do those type of things, for sure.
Well, I think David could relate too, because was it 5th or 6th grade?
I
lost a lot of weight.
I was chubby. I hate being picked on, and I dropped drinking soda, and I just decided to change my life around in those regards too.
Boom, look at that.
But the difference, though, is, my parents didn't really believe in anything athletic endeavors-wise, so all my self-discipline is kind of changed in my adult life. But I truly, truly appreciate your approach, your mindset when it comes to competition, which I think so many people can relate to as well.
Well, there are just so many. I mean, so you said stop drinking soda. That was a big one for me, because it's just such like it's junk. There's zero nutritional value, and it's really funny because there was some things I chose at that age that still to this day I don't do, and there's some things that I went back to, like, so. Say soda was out at age 11, and I still don't drink soda at all. Fast food, I very rarely, we'll say almost never eat any type of fast food, whereas like that was convenient. I said, hey, I'm not going to do that anymore. It's gross, And there's things like ice cream where I stopped eating ice cream, like, nah, I actually love that shit. I mean, ice cream. Once I got skinny, I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna eat some ice cream.
That's the go-to cheat item would be ice cream for sure for us.
But you know what? I feel like I was watching Rogan. He's talking about Sober October, and I'm like, well, I don't actually do anything like that, because I don't drink or smoke or nothing. So I said I'm not gonna eat any dessert for October. So you got to retain some level of discipline. I don't know. I feel like once you're not an athlete anymore. It's like you got to do some things just to make sure like your discipline's still and tough. So once in a while I'll do something like that where I, like just set something that I have to do just to make sure I can do it and not be a pussy.
So no sweets.
My wife hates it when I say that word. Sorry. No sweets this month. No.
Wow. No sweets this month. That's dedication. There's so it's dedication. I don't know if it's
when you're retired, you get to eat. You get to eat some of that stuff, right?
That's true.
Absolutely.
There's so many great places we can take this conversation. One thing of note too, just for the casual MMA fans or the casual UFC fans, a lot of people would say, "Oh, his career in the UFC was short-lived. He had 3 fights. He was out. He won his first fight. It was controversial with the Bulldog choke with Robbie Lawler, and then you had your other 2 fights. You had the 5-second knockout loss to Masvidal, and then the Damian Maia fight. But people don't realize, and I think you're very honest about it, is your hip issue. Your hip was deteriorating and everything like that, and the scares you had from the doctor that first time when you were young in your career, 15 years old, and then hearing it again about the herniated disc, the neck issues. But listen, man, you were super popular.
That UFC thing, because I know I felt it at the time. There's not even really regrets I have because there's nothing I could have done, but like I remember feeling this in 2013 when I didn't get signed. And then when I was reading the book, or writing the book, and then obviously I reread it many times, it was like, how did I not get signed in 2013? It's preposterous. I mean, I was 12-0. I had retained the Bellator title for, I think, 3 to 3.5 years, somewhere in there. I was ranked 6 through 8 in the world, depending on the publication, right? And I didn't even get an offer. It wasn't even like no, you're not giving me enough money. It wasn't like no this, no that. It was just like there was just literally no offer. I came here to Vegas. Talk about this in the book. It's like I don't want to spoil the book too much.
Yeah, we won't spoil.
I'll give kind of some teasers. Short cliff notes. But yeah, so essentially I was told like get out of the matching clause, and it took me a couple months, and I got out of the matching clause, and I faxed them the paperwork on that Friday morning, right? And then, this whole like month or 2 months, they had been saying, we want to sign Ben Askren. And that Friday, it was Jones versus Gustafsson in Toronto. And Dana's in a scrum. Dana doesn't really do the scrums anymore. We used to do the scrums. And he says, we have no interest in him. I'm like, wait. What? I literally just faxed him my paperwork. I'm like, what is going on right now? And then I flew here Monday morning, and I went and met with them, and there was a kind of a strange offer, a strange meeting. It's in the book. And then I thought we were still going to make it work, and I went back to my hotel, and I was flying out that night. I was only here for 12 hours or whatever. And I got a call from my manager, and he said, they withdrew the offer, and they're not going to make any offer at all. So, it was like, how did that happen? It was like, what in the hell?
Yeah, but had that not happened, you may never have fought in the same country as one of your idols, Muhammad Ali.
That's true. Yeah, I mean that's true. And I can't say I had a bad experience in one championship, but when I think back about like, well, the only thing I really want to do is to prove I was the best. I kind of missed out on my prime years. So 2013 when I left Bellator, I kind of been on a really hot streak. I beat up Douglas Lima, and my last fight was Andrei Kreshkov, who was a really tough opponent, and I kind of killed him. And it was like I was kind of ready to rumble then, and to not get any offer. And when we think back about it, it's like, wait, how did that happen? And Dana's things at the time were not enough experience, which was then laughable because he signed CM Punk.
I was going to bring that up. You must have felt like shit when that happened, and then he ends up training with you.
I talk about it. Doesn't want challenges, which obviously, like, hey, I only fought I fought in the UFC for 6 months, and I fought 2 Hall of Famers, maybe 3. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I mean, that couldn't have been further from the truth. All these things he was saying, like, they just couldn't have been further from the truth. And so, yeah, that was the one thing when I look back, I'm like, how did that freaking happen? And that's one of the things where in MMA, I don't really love. It's more competitive than boxing, right? Boxing, these dudes duck each other all the time. Like, they don't want to fight. They're in different organizations, whatever. But in wrestling, and I tell you, in wrestling, if you think you're the best in America, Schmo, if you thought you were the best in America, you could go show up at the U.S. Open as long as you're above 18. And you could try to show them you're the best. And guess what? If you're the best, you're going to win. And then you're going to the World Team Trials or the Olympic Team Trials, depending on the year. And if you're the best, you're going to go represent America at the World Championships. And then if you're the best there, you're going to beat everyone. You're going to win the world gold medal. And no one's going to say shit because there's nobody that says, in wrestling, it never ever happens when someone says, I'm the best in the world. And they didn't wrestle. That would never happen. People say, well, okay, if you think you're the best, show up.
So give us the honest assessment right now. Yeah. I mean, who got the best of that trade? You see what Demetrious Johnson continues to do in one championship. His resume is GOAT status. You can argue that right there. And look what you did with your 3 fights and the popularity you had in the UFC, and the people that you fought where their popularity went as well.
Well, the thing that I talked about was, like to one championship, I was a dead asset. Like I was retired. I wasn't doing anything, And then I think, obviously I wasn't in those meetings or negotiations or anything, but I think it was just Demetrious just didn't want to be there anymore, And so it worked for both parties because the one thing I wanted, I wanted to fight the best guys. And then Demetrious, he wanted out. He didn't want to deal with Dana or whomever. I don't know. I wasn't there, right? That's how it was made seem to me. And so we both got what we wanted. And so yeah, I think it was best for both parties. And like now, there's say 4 major organizations: PFL, Bellator, One Championship, and the UFC. Like there's some dudes in each one of those organizations that don't want to be there anymore. So it's like, let's go take this group of people that don't want to be here, and let's like, hey, who do you got? Well, here's who I got. Let's mix this thing up a little bit. Who do you got? 3-way trade. Let's flip it around a little bit.
But like, had Demetrious not gone to one championship and be in this situation, maybe his GOAT conversation could have potentially plateaued in the UFC, and now you add a whole nother wrinkle because he's done it on the other side of the continent, and it's just adding more belts to his collection. Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely that potential. Demetrious, obviously, he had the one loss to Adriano Moraes, and then I think he just avenged it, like in the last
just knocked him out.
Yeah, just knocked him out in the last month or so. So, he continues to be awesome, and we both got what we wanted out of it.
But after everything that happened in 2013, when you said all of a sudden, they just didn't want you, you didn't hear from them, and you're kind of left in the dark. So when the trade happened between like you and Demetrious, how hard was it, or was it easy to be like, let's do it, given what happened before?
Yeah, no, it was easy because I didn't give a shit. Because I wanted to fight the best people. Yeah. That's all I wanted, Like I said, in the first round of negotiations, it wasn't like I was asking for more money, or it wasn't any of these things. It was just, I literally was not given an offer. Yeah. So the second time around, it was like, well, that was all I wanted. I just wanted to go fight the best people. That was it, So yeah, it wasn't hard at all. It was a high level of excitement, and it was like something where, Chatri called me one night and he said, what about, I talked about some building. He said, what about a trade? I'm like, whoa, what do you, like, what does that mean? Tell me what that means. Because that means there's never been a trade, right? It doesn't exist. And he said, well, what if we traded you? I said, I don't know. Awesome. Let's do it. Sure, go ahead, whatever. And then he called me back a couple weeks later and he said, like, well, we actually think it's going to happen. And I was like, yes. And I remember being like so excited about, something that I had thought about happening for a decade or whatever was just about to happen.
So how come after your wrestling career, you knew you wanted to go to mixed martial arts? It pretty much seemed that way. Yeah. Was there interest for you because of your mic skills to want to go into professional wrestling?
No, never. So I always talk about, so I went to the Performance Center in 2020. And they didn't make me an offer, but they said, hey, we'd love to have you in some capacity. And I just, at this point in my life, I got kids, I got the wrestling academies, I love what I'm doing, I don't want to do anything else. So I said, I love it, I appreciate it, but I have no interest at all. In 2007, when I graduated college, there was this guy named Jerry Briscoe who was a longtime WWE recruiter. He actually wrestled at Oklahoma State and then went, I don't remember what it was called then, WWE, WWF, whatever it was at that point in time, He's a long-time recruiter. And he would always come up and tell me, he kind of made friends with him. He said, if you were 230 pounds, I'd make you $1 million a year. I said, okay, Jerry, I don't do steroids, and, I like wrestling, so I'm good. And we kind of always go back and forth. So I always had the interest in competing versus, like, being a performer. And I enjoy professional wrestling. I enjoy what's going on. But even when they were kind of like, I don't want to say they weren't recruiting me back then, but I was, talking to one of the main recruiters, it was just like, I'm just not that interested. Like, I just want to compete with people. That's what I've kind of always wanted to do.
One thing you kind of touched in the book, but you didn't get the details, as a little footnote, is you grappled with the Diaz brothers. But you didn't talk too highly about it, or you didn't get to detail. Tell the fans some details about your experience with the Diaz brothers.
It wasn't much. So Jake Shields brought me in.
Okay.
This was... oh man, I'm blanking. Did I even have a fight at this point? I don't even remember. I don't remember if I had no fights or if I had a couple, and it was pre-Bellator. It was definitely. I definitely had 0 Bellator fights. So prior to me being in that organization, and Jake Field. I mean, we could probably look this up. You got a producer to look stuff up?
Yeah.
What's the date?
Zion, look this up.
What was the date on George St. Pierre and Jake Shields? 2009 or 2010?
Yeah, just Google GSP versus Jake Shields.
Whatever year that was. It was like, I want to say it was like a November fight or October fight, and I was with him in maybe September, somewhere around there. So he asked me to come up because he thought, GSP was going to try to take him down and hold him down, and I was a good wrestler, and I just kind of either said I was going to make the crossover or just had made the crossover, but had no, like, major fights yet. No, it was awesome. I really loved... I loved Jake Shields and Gil Melendez, and I enjoyed my time training there. We didn't, like, maintain our friendship. What year was it? 2011. I was off by a year. Wait, so maybe I was fighting in Bellator then.
Okay. 2011, yeah.
I would have fought in Bellator. Okay, well, I lose my memory. Damn it all. Okay, so I had been in Bellator, so I really liked those guys. I didn't really maintain a friendship with them. I mean, I don't think we're enemies or anything, but we just, like, didn't run in the same circles. But it's funny, the Diazes were around kind of like all the time. And I always thought it was funny when I was there that they were kind of like really quiet every time they were in the gym versus, they're kind of, you see them and they're more loud and outspoken. And then the one day we went over to, it's kind of funny the way it worked because we would go to like a different gym every day. Someone was at Gil's gym, and then we went to a boxing gym, and then we went to, the one day we went over to, I think it was Cesar Gracie, and it was like on the other side of the bay or something. Yeah.
So it's before they had their academy?
Oh, it's 2011.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2010, but yeah.
That's interesting. That's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
But what do you make of Nate Diaz now being a free agent, and then him maybe even hinting, like, would he box?
Is he going to be a future Jake Paul opponent?
That's what I thought it was going to be. But I think at this point, if Jake is to beat... if you think Jake loses to Anderson Silva, does he continue to pursue boxing, right? Or is this going to be something where he just does it if he wins? Like, what's he going to do with his career? And then if he were to beat Anderson Silva, does Nate Diaz then make sense, right? Because Anderson's 185, Nate's really a 155-pounder. Anderson obviously had more success in mixed martial arts. He is a little older, obviously. I just don't know that it would make sense or that people would be that interested, but you never know.
It's interesting because it was, I think we were in the media scrum. It was a UFC fight night. Dana White was talking to the media afterwards. It was the night that Anderson Silva beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., and he pretty much made a statement saying Anderson Silva might be the greatest combat sports athlete of all time.
Yeah.
Then you know how Jake Paul is. You know how the theatrics work. Yeah. You're Jake Paul. You take that clip, which he's done since, and you run with the narrative. I just beat the greatest combat sports athlete of all time. I'm the greatest combat sports athlete of all time.
I actually didn't hear Dana make that comment, but yeah, I mean, Anderson, he looked great. I didn't watch the entirety of that fight, but I watched some clips from it, and he looked great. He's always been a really outstanding striker. That's coming up next week, so it'd be interesting to see what happens. I don't really have a rooting interest. I think on the one side, Jake Paul gets beat up. Everyone enjoys that. That's great, I'm sure. And on the other side, if he wins, it's like, well, like he beat up Anderson Silva, so like leave me alone. like this is preposterous,
Yes, and I'm not getting into it because you didn't spend too much time on it too. You brought it up as like the last chapter of the book.
Well, I started writing the book in August or September of 2020.
Oh, yeah.
So it predates
before Leon Edwards became champion.
Yeah, that's fine because I have kind of a dig at Leon in here, which I mean I feel my statement is truth, which is just it took him fucking forever to get a title shot. Given that I think he had 9 or 10 wins in a row, but I will say I enjoyed watching him win the title, not just because he knocked out Marty, but there was just something like, I actually felt this. And I don't really like McGregor, but I felt this when McGregor won his first belt. Is like when you see an athlete come to the culmination of something they've worked so hard for, and it's such like an honest, pure moment. Do you guys know what I'm saying by that?
Yeah.
Like you can see it in there, and it was like when you saw Leon win the belt and you saw like his reaction to it, like I don't know, you got to be a real dickhead to not be like, wow, that's awesome. I'm happy for that guy.
Yeah, because let's be real, he's being dominated from rounds 2, 3, and 4, and a few more seconds left. That thing goes to decision, and still, he never gave up hope.
Yeah,
he found his one opening.
Yeah,
knocked him out.
Yeah, so the book was mostly written in 2020, which predates the Jake Paul fight, but then obviously, given the fact that it took so long to write, we felt as though we can't not address that part of it. It wouldn't make any sense, so we had to put it in there.
How do you feel about people who still say, oh, that was a rig, that was fake, he didn't knock him out?
I don't even pay attention to those people. They're pretty stupid. I mean, obviously, on the one side, it's from a logistical standpoint. If I beat Jake Paul, I can do whatever. I fight his brother or fight some other dumb YouTube influencer, and I make a whole bunch of money, right? So the plus side of it is like really huge for me. And then obviously, why if I could beat him, why wouldn't I have just beat him? So it's really unfortunate. So no, I ignore those people.
I know you said you don't have a rooting interest in his fight against Anderson, but who
do you want to win?
Well, how do you predict the fight playing out, though?
I don't know. I don't claim to be a boxing expert. I thought I was going to beat him. I didn't think he was very good. I thought Tyron was going to beat him. So he's obviously significantly better than I anticipated. Anderson looked really good in his boxing matches. So I have absolutely no idea.
I think his pathway to victory, his way of winning, is that overhand right. He's got to knock him out. I don't think he would win a decision. I think Anderson moves too much. He's got too much knowledge in combat sports. I even think Tyron was winning that last fight in Cleveland until he got caught too. There wasn't much action.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm in the minority, but I thought Tyron, it was kind of even in the first one, and I know he kind of lost badly on the scorecards. And then he obviously has moments in the second one too.
How is Tyron, by the way? Because we saw him a few weeks ago.
I talked to him. I don't talk to him. I actually thought about calling him Dick because I was in St. Louis, but then I almost missed my flight and whatever. I talked to him the other day because I was there was this really funny story from our college days, which I probably can't say on here. It doesn't implicate him or I in anything. A teammate of one of ours, and I was telling someone who went to Mizzou but is significantly younger than us about this story, and the guy didn't believe me. I'm like, I swear to God, I know this sounds preposterous, but I swear this happened. And Tyron was involved in the story, although the story is not implicating him because he was not. I don't know if there's a guilty party, but the party that looks bad. He was not the party that looks bad, and so I had to call him and be like, hey, confirm that this happened, please tell him that this happened.
And it's definitely not in the book.
It would not be appropriate. I mean, I guess I can without. I probably should. Let's you. What is this rated? What is this rated? This show?
It's all audiences. Speak your mind.
So, anyways, Tyron and this other gentleman were going home with two girls. It was at a wrestling camp out of Colombia, and the one gentleman was inebriated, and he went into this gas station, and for whatever reason, he wanted these damn potato wedges. I know, it's ridiculous, and the store was out of wedges, and so he was in there raving and ranting about how he couldn't get any damn wedges. And then Tyron's like, what is this dude doing? Like, I've been sitting in the car. Why is he not coming back out? And so Tyron goes in there, and I'm going to make it PG, but he essentially says, dude, what are you doing? Like, and the guy's like, I want my wedges. There's no wedges. I want wedges. They need to make me wedges. And Tyron's like, girls or wedges? Girls or wedges? What are we doing here? And then so Tyron eventually has to drag this guy back into the car, and yeah. I mean, so that was a hilarious story because then the guy got the nickname Wedges for the next couple of years.
Hey, there it is.
A legend was born.
A legend was. One thing I want to ask you too, it's on the book. If you could have a conversation with Dana White today, what would you say to him? Because you haven't had that conversation.
I'd ask him why I wasn't. Well, okay, so that's funny because I told you I wrote the book prior to the Jake Paul fight.
Right.
The only two conversations he and I have had on the phone were during my training for Jake Paul.
He's the one who got you connected with Freddie Roach, right?
Yes, and then after the training session with Freddie Roach, he called me and we talked, and I think Freddie called him and told him I worked hard and whatever, you know? That was it, and I don't know why. I was probably like, I know the one time he caught me off guard, I was like, why is Dana White calling? I remember I got out of the shower, my phone was on the ground, and it said Dana White. I'm like, wait, what the hell is he calling for? What does he want, you know? And then the other time I was in California, and I think I was like trying to eat or something, and yeah, so I didn't ask him. But yeah, I would ask him, like, what the hell happened in 2013? That's what I would ask him.
That's your big thing.
Yeah, because it's I mean, like, obviously the excuses, I mean, and I've known this forever, right? But the excuses he gave the media were nonsense, right? They didn't make any sense. So, yeah, that's probably what I'd ask him.
But that's why we have so much respect for you. Consistently wanted to fight the best talent at all levels of your career.
Yeah, no excuse.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I don't like, and I'd say this in the book, I think bitterness is like a really bad emotion that we as humans need to control. And so I don't have any bitterness towards him. I think actually generally he does a really good job. But there are just some things like that one. And I'm sure there's other people who have fought for him over the last 15 years who would say something similar. But I think a relatively large amount have positive feelings towards him.
Right now in the UFC, who's your top 3 best trash talkers on the mic?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, you got me off guard here.
That's what I like to do.
Give me some options.
Options? Well, so
Hasbulla.
Technically that works because he's signed by the UFC. I like that.
Who is the best 3 trash talkers? I mean, Connor's retired, right? So he doesn't count.
Chael's retired too.
What about Colby?
That's his favorite guy, Colby.
He might be retired too.
What do you think?
He's not going to fight until after this legal situation gets figured out.
Why wouldn't
he
fight until after that?
Because isn't one of the issues that he's calling is brain trauma? Like isn't that like
I don't know.
Like
I didn't read the lawsuit.
I thought I read somewhere where part of the lawsuit is he got punched, you got sucker punched, so he's arguing brain trauma. You can't get in a cage and fight someone if you're arguing legally that you have brain trauma.
Well, I mean, he's also fought for like a decade, so he probably does have some brain trauma a little bit. Yeah, I never really enjoyed his brand trash talk. I'm coming up like, who I really enjoy? Who I really enjoy that you got, your fault, this is your fault. You got him mad at me.
Okay, who?
Kevin Holland.
Kevin Holland.
I enjoy his whole thing. He got really upset at me. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. I was wearing this shirt.
You were wearing that shirt.
This is your shirt, by the way.
And we were at my house.
Yes.
And we were at my
disc
house.
golf course.
Yep. And he got mad at me. And I'm like, hey, dude, like, I'm being funny. I'm talking about you. Like, I enjoy your shtick. Like, what are you so mad about? And he was just kept staying mad. And I'm like, okay, like, you can be as mad as you want, but, like, I'm good with you. So, like, whatever. And then eventually he just stopped, like, messaging me.
I didn't mean any of that. It was just about the whole superhero stuff. I mean, you don't get any of that.
I thought it was awesome. I thought it was hilarious. I thought we had a good shtick, and he didn't appreciate it.
So that's one. You got 2 others, so that's a really good name.
Yeah, all the good ones are gone. I don't really. I mean, Sean O'Malley obviously talks a lot. I don't find him to be that entertaining, really.
But your hairstyle, I looked at the photos when you were young. Remember the photos?
Yeah, the afro is very similar.
Yeah, it might be my child. Never know.
Him and also the featherweight. Also,
Chase
Hooper.
Damn, I'm gonna tweet you because I cannot think of any good trash talkers.
What
right
about
now.
Sean Strickland?
Do you like his brand?
He's all right. Yeah, like I'm entertained by him. Yeah, but his last fight was not good. He had
Alex Pereira.
bad strategy.
He fought
very bad strategy.
Welterweight.
No, you know who I enjoy? You know who's been cracking me up lately? Costa.
Yes.
Some of the things he does. Yes. He's kind of really off the wall.
Yes.
And it's kind of funny.
Man, you need, but it's not for everybody. You need to fight to have a taste of this before, you know.
You know, we do have shot glasses here if you want to.
You did right.
Yeah.
You drank some?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We gotta have a conversation.
Secret juice.
Bad for you.
Wow.
Oh my
Look at
God.
that. Helen's bringing
Look
this in
what
off
you
camera.
beautiful woman bring for us here.
Wow.
Where is the camera? Right here. Oh my God.
You got the knocker, Schmo.
Okay.
Got the knockers.
Okay.
Pour us some secrets before
I will allow you guys take some taste. Not too much, because this is so difficult to produce. Because it's homemade. Yet I will make this for everybody very soon.
Anything else you want to get off your chest? I know you're doing a whole media gauntlet.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming on in.
It's awesome. I love to see what you guys have built. This is a really cool studio, and appreciate you guys having me on. And I'm glad you liked the book. And that's funny that we shared the very young age weight loss.
That was there's
a lot in common.
Yeah, with that for sure. No, we appreciate you coming on. We'll be at your panel tomorrow too.
Awesome.
Looking forward to chatting with you. Episode 110 of the Schmozone podcast. By the way, this will be available where? Amazon, where else?
Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Barnes & Noble stores. I think just like Google it.